Today, the credit tide is receding. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Well, latest post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. Well, those of you following the channel will know that I've argued very strongly for a correlation between credit availability and home price movement. When credit is readily available and interest rates are low, home prices go higher. The reverse is also true. When credit is tight and interest rates are higher, property prices fall. And indeed, Westpac is the latest to come out and suggest that there are going to be more price falls ahead. I think I'd have to agree with them. But the ABS today has come out with the new loan data, and they said that the overall value of new loan commitments for housing fell 5.3% to $22.1 billion in January 2023, after a fall of 4.3% in December, and it's now 35% lower compared to a year ago, according to the data released. Now, the value of total new owner-occupier loan commitments fell 4.9% to $14.7 billion, and that was 35.1% lower compared to a year ago, while new investor loan commitments fell 6% to $7.4 billion, and that was 34.8% lower compared to a year ago. In January 2023, in season-adjusted terms, the value of external refinancing for total housing fell 2.1%, but remained close to record highs at $18.6 billion. For owner-occupied housing, it fell 1.9% to $12.7 billion, which was still the third highest level in the series. And for investor housing, it fell 2.6% to $5.9 billion, and that was 10.2% higher compared to a year ago. This is, of course, because everybody is searching out for cheaper loans, and also people who are refinancing are continuing to draw down significant equity out of their property through Equity Mate, and that, of course, is also helping to bolster the refinancing value. Now, in January, in season-adjusted terms, the value of new loan commitments for owner-occupiers fell 4.9% after a fall of 4.3% in December, and for investors it fell 6% after a fall of 4.3% in December. And in January, in season-adjusted terms for owner-occupied housing, the value of new loan commitments for the purchase of existing dwellings fell 3.8% and was 37.1% lower compared to a year ago. For the construction of new dwellings, it fell 8.9% and was 24.5% lower compared to a year ago. And for the purchase of new dwellings, it fell 7.3% and was 33.3% lower compared to a year ago. And in January, in season-adjusted terms for owner-occupied housing, the value of new loan commitments in Victoria fell 9.8%. In New South Wales, it fell 7.1%. In Queensland, it fell 3.5%. In Western Australia, it fell 5.4%. In South Australia, it fell 4.2%. In Tasmania, it dropped 4.6%. And in the Northern Territory, it fell 1.2%. But in the ACT, it rose 7.2%. Of course, wages growth there is very strong. In January 2023, in season-adjusted terms for investor housing, the value of new loan commitments in Victoria fell 7.4%, in Western Australia fell 14.1%, in Queensland it fell 4.9%, in South Australia it fell 11.4%, in New South Wales it fell 0.7%, and in Tasmania, which is a smaller and more volatile series, it fell 10.9%, and in the ACT it rose 13.7%. And the Northern Territory, it rose 63.5%, but these, of course, are smaller and more volatile series. In January 23, in original terms, the value of new variable rate loan commitments funded in the month fell 20.6%. That's the sharpest fall recorded in the series, and the value of new variable rate loan commitments to first home buyers funded in the month fell 22.9%, while the value of new fixed rate loan commitments funded in the month fell 21.9% to the lowest level recorded in the series, and the value of new fixed loan commitments to first home buyers funded in the month fell 23.1%. Now, it's worth noting a loan is considered funded once any portion of the funds is made available to the borrower to draw down according to the terms of the contract, and that will occur after there is a borrower-accepted commitment to provide finance. Due to this timing difference, the value of loans funded in the month shown in this graph will generally not reconcile with the value of new borrower-accepted commitments for the month shown in the other graphs and downloaded tables. And in January 23, in original terms, the average loan size for owner-occupied dwellings, including construction, purchase of new dwellings and existing dwellings, fell slightly at the national level from $604,000 to $601,000, but was 25.2% higher compared to the pre-pandemic averages seen in February 2020. The number of new owner-occupied first-home buyer loans commitments fell to its lowest level since February 2017, and the number of new owner-occupied first-home buyer loan commitments fell 8.1% in January. Owner-occupied first-home buyer lending continued to decline from the high reached in January 2021, the ABS said. The decline coincided with the winding down of COVID-19 pandemic stimulus measures. Anecdotal feedback from lenders suggests that reduced borrowing capacity due to rising interest rates further dampened overall demand for new housing loans in recent months. And in January 23, in season-adjusted terms for owner-occupied first-home buyers, the number of new loan commitments at the national level fell 8.1% to 6,956 after a fall of 4.1% in December. And it's 57.5% lower than the January 2021 high and 27.5% lower than the pre-pandemic level seen in February 2020. In Victoria, it fell 11.5%. In New South Wales, it fell 12.7%. In Queensland, it fell 8.9%. In Western Australia, it fell 3.7%. In Tasmania, it fell 8.4%. And in South Australia, it fell 1.5%. Though in the ACT, it rose 21.3%. And in the Northern Territory, it rose 20%, both, of course, being smaller and more volatile. In January 23, new loan commitments, season adjusted, rose 0.5% for fixed personal loans. It fell 2.5% for business construction, which is typically a volatile series, but was flat in trend terms and remained at the same level as the previous month. It fell 0.7% for business purchase of property, typically a volatile series, and fell 1.5% in trend terms. And in January 23, in season-adjusted terms, the value of new loan commitments for total fixed-term personal finance rose 0.5%, after a fall of 3% in December. For road vehicles, it fell 0.4%. For personal investments, it fell 2.7%. For household and personal goods, it rose 6.2% to an all-time high. And for travel and holidays, it rose 0.9% to the highest level seen since late 2018. So again, we see the worrying trend of personal credit rising, and that's, of course, a cash flow question. In January 23, in season-adjusted terms, the value of new loan commitments for construction finance fell 2.5%, after a rise of 99.4% in December. In trend terms, though, it was flat. That's pretty much remaining the same level as the previous month. For the purchase of property, it fell 0.7% after a fall of 6.6% in December. In trend terms, it fell 1.5%. Now, these series can have volatile month-to-month movements in season-adjusted terms, as they are strongly affected by small numbers of high-value loans. And elsewhere, the HIA said that the ABS data released today is reaching new lows, with lending for new homes recording its weakest month in almost 15 years. The ABS released the lending to households and businesses data for January today, and there was just 4,343 loans issued for the construction or purchase of a new home in January. That's the weakest month since November 2008, and 8.2% down on the previous month. Owner-occupiers and investors alike continue to retreat from the market. First-home buyers especially were issued fewer loans in January 2023 than in any month in the last 6 years. Even lending for renovations, the part of the sector expected to hold up relatively well during this downturn, had its weakest month in almost 2 years. The data continues to reflect the weight of interest rate increases, which occurred in 2022, and before the RBA increased the rate again in February, with the promise of more rate increases to come. There are significant lags evident in this cycle, and we are unlikely to see the bottom in this data until the second half of this year at the earliest. The higher cash rate is compounding the adverse impact of the rising costs of materials, labour and land, as well as the increased costs of compliance with the building code. There remains a large volume of work underway that will be completed in 2023, and this will keep national unemployment exceptionally low until early 2024. By continuing to raise rates, the RBA risks a longer and deeper slowdown in economic growth than is necessary, concluded the HIA. And the number of loans for construction and purchase of new homes declined in most jurisdictions in January compared to the previous month, led by South Australia, down 37.6%, and followed by New South Wales, down 37.2%, Victoria down 32.2%, Queensland down 25.1%, Western Australia down 23.6%, and Tasmania down 1.4%. Increases, though, were seen in the Northern Territory up 47.6% and the ACT up 24%, but as I've said before, those are such volatile series as to be relatively meaningless. So, standing back, you can see here that credit availability is shrinking away. People are less willing and able to commit. Banks are tightening some of their lending criteria. And still there is a fight, of course, about refinancing existing loans. And in fact, today I've heard of several people who've been phoned up by their banks to try and persuade them to stay and to be offered a cheaper loan, which is going to put more pressure on bank margins too. So, the bottom line is simply this: tight credit means lower house prices, and probably considerably lower. So don't be fooled by any little wobble like everyone's claiming that we've reached the bottom. No, we haven't. More falls are ahead. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.